Have you ever looked around and just wondered, why do some people seem to build wealth so easily, while so many of us work our entire lives and just struggle to get by? Well, that is the big question at the heart of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And today, we're going to dig into its pretty controversial answer. Now, before we jump in, I want to be super clear. This is not your typical dry finance book. Nope. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a full-blown global phenomenon. It has totally changed the way millions, and I mean millions, of people think about their money. The book starts with a real bombshell. It asks, what if the advice we've all heard our whole lives, go to school, get a good job, is actually the worst, most dangerous advice you could possibly give someone? Yeah, that's the provocative idea that kicks this whole thing off. So why is that old advice maybe not working anymore? That's what we're about to get into. We're going to look at how the world has completely changed, but for some reason, our financial playbook, it's kind of stuck in the past. You can just feel the frustration in this quote, right? It's from the co-author's son, and he's basically saying, hey, wake up. He's looking at a world with people like Bill Gates or Michael Jordan who are completely rewriting the rules of success, and he's wondering why everyone is still clinging to this old, outdated playbook. But these big ideas from the author, Robert Kiyosaki, they didn't just appear out of thin air. No, they were shaped by his really unique childhood, where he learned about money from two totally different father figures, his rich dad and his poor dad. So on one side, you've got his poor dad. That's his actual father, a super smart guy, PhD, head of the state's education system. Then on the other side, you have his rich dad, his best friend's dad, who dropped out after the 8th grade but went on to become one of the wealthiest men in all of Hawaii. Quite a contrast, right? And this, right here, this gets to the absolute core of their different ways of thinking. For poor dad, money was this evil thing. But for rich dad, it was the lack of money that was the real problem. One dad said, work for a company. The other said, no, learn to buy a company. One would say, I can't afford it, and that was the end of the thought. The other would ask, okay, how can I afford it? It's a complete shift in mindset. And that very difference in thinking is what Kiyosaki says is the key to escaping what he famously calls the rat race. You know the feeling, right? You get a raise at work, you're pumped for like a minute, and then poof. Suddenly there's a bigger car payment, maybe a more expensive house, and you're just as stressed about money as you were before. That, my friends, is the rat race. And it's a trap that is so easy to fall into. And this is pretty much the cycle of the rat race laid out. We're taught to work harder and harder to make more money, but that just leads to bigger bills, higher taxes, and more debt. And you know the craziest part is, we then turn around and teach our own kids to do the exact same thing. We just keep that hamster wheel spinning for the next generation. But Kiyosaki got lucky. He actually had a mentor who showed him how to break free. And it all started with one incredible lesson, a lesson he learned for the tiny price of just 10 cents an hour. So picture this. It all kicks off when a 9-year-old Kiyosaki, who's tired of being the poor kid at school, walks up to his best friend's dad and just asks him straight up, can you teach me how to get rich? But Rich Dad didn't sit him down for a lecture. Nope, he gave him a real-world challenge. He basically said, I'll teach you, but not in a classroom. You're going to work for me. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. He knew the best way to learn is by doing, and Kiyosaki was about to get a crash course in the school of life. And the job? Oh, it was super glamorous, dusting off canned goods in one of his convenience stores. The pay? Even better, a whopping 10 cents an hour. So as you can probably imagine, it did not take long for young Kiyosaki to get completely fed up. I mean, he was working his butt off for literal pennies, and he just felt like he was being used. He was angry, he was frustrated, and he was absolutely ready to quit. Okay, and this is where the story gets really good. Kiyosaki storms up to Rich Dad, and he just lets him have it. He calls him a greedy crook, says he's exploiting his workers. I mean, he's basically saying everything you've ever wanted to say to a boss, but, never had the guts to. But here's the twist. Rich Dad isn't mad at all. In fact, he's thrilled. He says, not bad. In less than a month, you already sound just like most of my employees. He had successfully made Kiyosaki feel like a typical, underappreciated employee. And that was the entire point of the lesson. And right then, Rich Dad drops this major truth bomb on him. He explains that life is the best teacher there is. But it doesn't just stand up and give you a lecture. Instead, life just pushes you around. And every single one of those pushes
Every time you get a paycheck that feels too small, or you have a boss you can't stand, or you get a bill you don't know how to pay, each push is life screaming, "Wake up! There is something I need you to learn here."
So, here's the deal. When life pushes you, you really only have two choices. One, you can just let it push you around your whole life. You can blame your boss, your low pay, your job, whatever. Or two, you can learn the lesson. You can realize that maybe you are the problem and that you have the power to change yourself. And all of that leads us right here to the single most important lesson in the entire book. This is the one that, if you let it, can change the way you think about money forever. See, at this point, Rich Dad had broken Kiyosaki's dependency on just getting a paycheck. He'd opened his mind up to a totally new way of seeing the world, and now he was finally ready to hear the real secret that separates the rich from everyone else. And here it is. This is the mic drop moment. Lesson number 1, the poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. Think about that. Most people spend their lives chasing a paycheck. The rich, though, they build and buy assets. Things like businesses, real estate, stocks that put money into their pockets. They have their money working for them so they don't have to. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one big question to think about, a really important one. Are you working for your money, or is your money working for you? Because the answer to that question, well, it just might change your life.